We're going to be looking at writing an integrated thematic program, which is your first assignment. Don't forget to look at the Creative Arts student support material and to read it very carefully for both your assignments. It contains just about everything you need to know, with lots and lots of examples of what we're requiring for both assignments. As you're writing your programs, check out Chapter 9 in Mad About the Arts. Read some of the units of work in the Creative Arts K-6 units of work. Look at the students' examples on views. Attend the tutorials and lectures in the 2 integration weeks, as we'll be putting into practice what we expect you to be writing in your programs. You can also use the notes to jog your memories. And of course, artsmad.com has got lots and lots of programs that you can use the ideas from, but obviously not use the identical program. Go into Creative Arts Resources, click on Integration, and then you'll find a whole lot of integrated programs based on themes and based on children's books. So it's a thematic unit of work across the 4 art forms of music, dance, drama and visual arts. They're units of work or programs, and they're not lesson plans. Please use the downloader pro formas because that's what we'll be accepting. You write an introductory lesson, and then you develop the theme across 2 to 4 lessons, and you close off the program with 1 lesson. You must keep to strict page limits in the program of 1 page per art form. So over the 4 art forms, there'll be 4 pages only in the matrix format from the proforma. Before you can actually teach a program, you need to think about what preparation you need to do as a teacher. Lots of ideas and examples in the student support material. So you write about the school and the children in your class, the contextual description. And then you write about why it's important to teach the arts in general and also the arts specifically. Why is it important to teach music? Why is it important to teach visual arts or dance or drama? And you look at behaviour management strategies. Analyse your teachers' behaviour management strategies in relation to CREATIVE and your strategies in relation to music, dance, drama and visual arts. Just a reminder, in Chapter 2 of Mad About the Arts, we look at how we create positive behaviour management by knowing our children, by setting rules, rewards and routines, by setting a positive environment and creating positive attitudes, by being very careful with our time and resource management, creating lots of interaction in the classroom, using a variety of activities and effective communication. Then you write the general syllabus-based outcomes, and you detail very clearly how you're going to prepare the lessons and clean up for music, dance, drama and visual arts. And then detail the resources in each of these 4 art forms. When you go to teach this program, you'll be very glad that you've got all the resources listed and the preparation and cleanup listed, so then you can set to work and be really prepared to teach the program confidently. Your reference list must be in APA style. Academic literacy is important, grammar and engagement with the unit. If work within the program does not tie in with what we've been doing in the lectures and tutorials, well, it's a possibility you can fail the whole assignment because you're not showing engagement with the unit. At the beginning of your program for each art form on the proforma, you need to write about the indicators. They must relate to each activity, not from the syllabus. And in the student support material, there are examples of these indicators. What words to use, like demonstrate, sing, paint, create. Words like understand or reflect on are very difficult to observe and assess. But these other words, you can observe them and you can assess how well the children have achieved those indicators. Your first lesson, you introduce the program and children are doing. It isn't the teacher talking and talking and talking and the children researching and the teacher talking. That makes a boring lesson, as I'm sure you would know. So make sure children are doing right from the beginning. They're singing, they're painting, they're dancing, they're moving, they're acting. In the development of the program, this should go over 2 to 4 lessons. It develops the themes and concepts sequentially. So you start teaching a very simple element or concept and you build on that and you build on that. Don't include too many elements, just a couple of elements in each activity. Children will learn them successfully. It must relate to children's previous experience and skills. So if you've said in the contextual description that they have no drama experience and suddenly you're asking them to do really challenging drama activities, we'll say, hey, think about what experience the children have had. You need to simplify these activities. Conversely, if the children have done lots and lots of singing and music and playing instruments, if you start with basic beat activities, the children are going to be bored. So everything you do in your program must relate back to the contextual description that you've written at the start of your assignment. Scaffold your activities carefully so that the children will know how to do the activities. When you tie up your program with your closing lesson, you need to sum up what you've taught through the program. And again, the children must be doing, not teacher talking or children sitting reflecting. It's very useful for assessing if children have achieved the indicators and outcomes. Here's an example of the artform pro forma. So we've got the observable indicators, introductory lesson, developing a theme, and a closing lesson. We've got the assessment, how you will know students have achieved the outcomes and indicators. The elements, each of these elements, if you tick these columns, must be written down in the music learning experiences. So if you say the children are singing and playing instruments loudly and softly in the introductory lesson, then you tick dynamics. But if you just say children are singing, that's not covering, for example, pitch, unless you focus in on pitch and we can read that in the text of the learning experiences. Abbreviate your outcomes in the right-hand column. So here's an example of a dance program filled out. We have the observable indicators. Introductory lesson, clearly set out with lots of scaffolding. The theme is developed with sufficient lessons to cover 4 lessons. And then the closing lesson. Again, it's engaging. And the assessment, showing how and what will be assessed. The elements are being taught, and they relate to the activities in the learning experiences. The outcomes are abbreviated. Scaffolding is very important. It refers to the idea that specialised instructional supports need to be in place in order to best facilitate learning when students are first introduced to a new subject. Here's an example of scaffolding. You instruct the children, you tell them what they need to be doing, and then you demonstrate it, either getting children up or you demonstrate it yourself. Then you observe how they're going. Have they picked up? Do they understand it? And you correct them and give them positive feedback and make changes if they're not quite doing it correctly. So another way of saying that is that you explain, you demonstrate, you do it as a whole class, you check for feedback, and then break into groups. So that's another way of scaffolding. So there are different ways, but make sure every step is very clear and you get feedback from the children that they understand what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get chaos and children not being on task, children being bored and frustrated. Here's an example of a drama program. So we've got indicators, linking with assessment. The elements that are taught are specifically written down in the learning experiences. The introduction and closing lessons have children doing. They're doing drama, not just thinking about it or listening to the teacher talk about it. The scaffolding for every new learning experience. So teacher demonstrates, teacher introduces and demonstrates freeze frames, teacher explains and demonstrates. Here's a program for Wombat Stew. Look, it's looking rather sparse, and I don't think this would pass. It's very unsatisfactory. Why do you think it's unsatisfactory? There's no scaffolding. The activities are introduced with no explanation or demonstration. There's no mention of the elements in the learning experiences. Tone colour is ticked in the first line, but it doesn't specifically say children will explore tone colour. There's insufficient work for 4 to 6 weeks. However, the indicators are specific and observable, and they link in with the assessment, which shows how and what, so that part is good. Here's the same program, but with more scaffolding, and it's satisfactory. So you've got the indicators linking with the assessment, specific learning experiences, talking about loud and soft instruments, tying in with dynamics, learning to play the melody of the song, and so pitch has been ticked. Notice that we're not ticking every single element for every single activity. Just focus on one element, or maybe even 2 in an activity, no more than that. The groups will play a melody, and so pitch is focused on. Here's a visual arts program which isn't satisfactory. Why isn't it? That's right, there's very little scaffolding or specific detail. This would not be acceptable, and the student would fail this particular program. Here is a good visual arts lesson, the same program as previously, but with a lot more detail, more scaffolding. So children are listening, they're working, they're thinking, they're being taught, the teacher's demonstrating, and there's much more specific detail. So you could actually take this lesson, these lessons, and teach them. Whereas with the previous one, you would be scratching your head and wondering what exactly you would have to do with the children. So there's lots of scaffolding. The elements are mentioned in the learning experiences and linked with the elements in the right-hand column. The indicators are specific and observable, and the assessment shows how and what is being assessed. Here's a drama program, very unsatisfactory. Also, processes and types of dramas and elements and outcomes are blank. So I think this student was rushing a little bit at the last moment. And again, they would be failing this particular program. But if they spent a little bit more time, they could add in some more scaffolding. And the red text shows the program from the previous slide, with the black text showing the additions to make it more satisfactory. Once, of course, the elements, processes and types of drama have been added. Assessment. Ensure you have given the students the tools that they need in order to be able to achieve the assessment tasks. So we're asking you how the children will be assessed and what will be assessed. So if you look in the student support material and also in Mad About the Arts, you will see some suggestions of how to assess children. We use the word octopus to help you remember. Observation, consultation, tasks, other forms of assessment, peer assessment, using outcomes and indicators, and self-assessment. And there's many more details about each of those particular areas of assessment in the student support material and in Mad About the Arts. And the what? You look at the indicators. That's what you're assessing. And you write at the bottom what you are assessing in the assessment section. So you're ready to submit? Great. Put your program through Turnitin. Get it back a week before it's due. Check the originality report and make changes if the work shows any sort of plagiarism. If you're quoting directly from texts, you need to put the page number in. Otherwise, that's just seen as you stealing someone else's work and just putting a generic title but not putting the actual page number in, and that's a serious form of academic misconduct. Do read the Learning Guide and student support material documents. Read Mad About the Arts, the different relevant chapters. The Creative Arts Classroom in Chapter 2 for Behaviour Management. Chapter 9, Programming in the Arts. Chapters 3 in Music, 5 in Visual Arts, 6 in Dance and 7 in Drama. Check that you've met all the criteria to pass the assignment. There is a checklist in the student support material. And you need to have a satisfactory academic literacy standard and demonstrate engagement with the unit. Here's the criteria you need to ensure that you have met. Academic literacy and engagement with the unit. Contextual description and adding media arts somewhere in the program. A referenced rationale with 6 or more scholarly references, referenced correctly in APA style, both in the text citations as well as in the reference list. Classroom management. Talk about how your teacher manages their class using the creative model, and then your own teaching strategies in relation to music, dance, drama, and visual arts. And these are not related to the creative model. They're your own strategies for each of the art forms. Then you have to list the preparation, cleanup, and resources used for your program. Make sure you've done it on the pro forma, and make sure each art form is on one page in their program. The music program needs to have indicators, an introduction and closing lessons which are engaging and interesting, 4 to 6 weeks worth of work, lots of scaffolding, clearly detailed elements, engaging experiences and teaching strategies, and clear assessment strategies. The same with drama and dance and visual arts. If you've got any questions, read the learning guide and read the student support material. If, after reading the learning guide and the student support material, you still have questions, then certainly email the unit coordinator and they will answer your questions. So I hope you enjoy programming in the arts.